Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the Podcast Mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better, and I'm very excited to have a returning guest on the show today, Mr. Kevin Snow. He's the host of a Top 100 Apple Podcast, Growth Mode, which is, if you're not listening to it, do yourself a favor. It's going to take your business and yourself to the next level. They're amazing, both. That's with, I forget his name. I can't believe.
Donnie,
I can't believe I forgot. Donnie was one of my first guests, and I can't believe I have to get him back on. But yeah, you host it with Donnie. You're the CEO of Time on Target. You help people with their sales, automating tasks, and a badass networker as well. So we're going to talk all of that and more, Kevin. So thank you very much for first helping me out forgetting Donnie's name, which I feel horrible about, but also for being on the show.
I think it's awesome that he forgot his name. That is fantastic. And I can't wait to talk to him tomorrow. It's like, yeah, I was on a podcast and the host couldn't remember who you were. He's like, he knew you were loud and kind of an asshole, but couldn't remember your name at all. So yeah, I am going to have so much fun with him.
And it's funny enough, I had a meeting with him like 2 weeks, like last week or the week before, telling him that I'm interviewing you, and I feel horrible. But let's move on from that. Kevin, thank you so much for coming back.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
We didn't touch about your podcast, Growth Mode, because it was still early when you first came out. So there wasn't any like huge things to talk about, but it's an amazing podcast. Why did you guys start that podcast? Let's start there. Why did you start that with Donnie?
Oh, wow. All right. So we're in our third season now. We're in our third year. And when we originally started it, one of the feedbacks that we had been getting from our members in Success Champion Networking was they loved the back and forth between the two of us, because Donnie is a high D on the disc profile. He is your normal, loud, obnoxious, redneck Marine salesperson. And I'm his opposite. I am his, we call each other our nemesis because we're the opposite personalities for business. I am more of the introverted person, and I'm super analytical. I'm all about process, but I still can hold my own in sales. So we would come at these topics from different points of view. And people were really loving the banter between us and our conversations, because he would say something and then I would throw out another comment that supported him, but also gave a different twist on it from my viewpoint. And people were like, oh, this is really awesome. So we decided we needed a show, and we wanted to really utilize it to provide ongoing support and training for our members, but then also to use it as a way to kind of promote our business. And it's funny because I'm in a bunch of different podcast groups, and they always talk about monetizing your podcast and you got to get sponsors and you got to sell ads. I'm like, hell no. Our sponsors are us. But we monetize the hell out of our podcast because we use it to get people are like, oh, I need to join your SCN. I need to join one of your groups. Or I need to join I want to be in your Champions Table Mastermind. Or Kevin, we were talking about this, and we want to talk more about automation. And that's how we monetize it. So it was really a business move for us to help us create consistent content that was not only going to help educate and make our members better, but was also going to drive more people into our audience.
I love how you touched on, because we're in the multiple podcasting groups, and yes, sponsorship, I think, was the only old way of doing monetizing, because no business people had come into this space. It was all hobbyists, right? And they didn't have some of them may have had business acumen, but they didn't realize that podcasting is a business.
Yeah.
You're putting out free content for people to consume, but you can always drive them back to your website or your business that you have it. So I love how you're saying use your business as sponsor your podcast.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, your podcast, if you're putting out good content, even if you're only doing a 15 to 30 minute show, that should be a content engine for you. That should be that transcript. Well, and obviously you get the podcast, and you should have the audio version and the video version on YouTube. But then that episode, you should have the transcript, which now gets turned into a blog. that transcript. We've started now taking our transcripts and throwing them into Chat GPT and telling it to give us like a 5-item summary and then turn it into a Instagram carousel for us. And it'll give us the content. So now we have social media posting from it. You can take the video now, you turn that into reels and shorts that you can put on the different social media platforms. And you can really use that one episode to drive a ton of content for you without spending a ton of time. And that's one of the real major superpowers of being a podcaster. If you're a business person, is you have this really consistent source of content, and you're not always having to come up with, oh, what do I want to talk about on social media today? What do I need? Oh, I'm going to spend 3 hours now typing this damn post. If you type like me, so
just single finger.
And and it's not even so much for me, the single finger thing. It is the writing it, and then my analytical mind kicks in, and then I rewrite it, and I keep editing it, and it's never good enough. And so now it's like new, and I'm like, crap, I haven't posted anything yet. So, you can use that podcast as a tool to get all kinds of content out on a regular basis without spending a ton of time, which frees you up then to go sell more things and grow your business.
It's again, you're talking about the automation. You're talking to you're preaching to the choir pretty much, how important podcast is, but it automates that process of content for you, because you record one episode, or if you're like me and crazy, record 5 episodes in a day doing back-to-back interviews because you like the punishment of editing, of talking, but you get all this content that you can then use, like you say, Chat GPT, or like a previous guest, Deirdre of Capshow says, you can use Capshow, which helps do everything for you, or Descript that does the editing for you. But you have a whole team behind that handles all that podcasting stuff for you, right?
So we have a team that does the video editing and the audio editing for us and makes it look pretty on screen and stuff. Donnie used to do a ton of that himself on his old show, and he realized, because he used to do a daily show that was an hour long. So he would do all the editing. He's like, I can't keep this up. So he got smart and found people that could do it and figure out how we were able to work with them on an ongoing basis. So we have those people that are doing that stuff. And then it's really super simple. We give it to our YouTube guy, who then cuts it down into shorts for YouTube, and for I guess YouTube, it's reels. I got to use the right terminology. And then can't you all just call it the same thing?
No. Brand specific. It has to be brand specific. Come on, Kevin, you know this.
It's and Twitter has their own other one, which is like some made up word. So I don't even know. But so then we give it to Lou, and he does the YouTube thing, and we give it to one of our other people who then cuts it into reels for Instagram and Facebook. And then Lou also makes our cover art and graphics for us, and then the graphic piece to give to the guest. And then we take it and it gets sent out. So we have a team. We have it all automated through Asana, who does what, marks off. Someone else gets a task sent to them. Everyone knows what needs to be done. If it was me and Donnie trying to do it, we'd never get an episode out on time. Or it would be Wednesday night, and he would be like frantically editing, and I would be frantically writing blog posts to go out. So we had to have the team so that we could do the stuff that actually grew our business and do the CEO, COO, sales stuff. That was really important that you have to do. But we knew we had to have this podcast and all the content. So we brought on some people who are really badass at what they do and are invested in our brand and excited to be doing stuff for us, and they want to help the brand grow. So it's been a really cool experience, at least for me. So
having the right people in place that handle the stuff that you may be okay at, but they're way superior to it, is so important. How did you start building your network? Like, you guys have this amazing, the Badass Business Summit that we're going to touch on a bit later, but you have the Badass Network of successful champions. Yep. How did you guys start building that to the level you are today, where you're international?
So when I started working with Donnie, the funny thing is I started working with him because he broke his email automation. And he had literally posted in a veterans group on Facebook. He's like, I broke MailChimp. Bam Bam mad, and he went off on his rant about how it's broken, and he was mad, and he didn't know what to do, and he wanted someone to help. Well, all the other people did what normal salespeople do. They're like, "Oh, we can totally fix that for you. Can we jump on a Zoom call? Oh, let's jump on a call. We're a MailChimp partner." Literally all code for, "Oh, can I get you on a Zoom call so I can sell you our services?" And I do Facebook differently. And when I'm working, and I learned this from one of my friends, when I'm working a group for prospecting and someone asks a question that I'm an expert in, I answer the damn question. I literally will drop in that post, "Hey, dude, I get it. I've had other friends who've had this issue. Here's all the things you need to do." And I give all the answers. And then I ask more questions so that I can get more information, make sure I'm giving him the right stuff. And my goal is that then people are like, "Oh, wow, that's awesome." And the people that are watching that have the same issues are like, "Oh, I need to talk to Kevin because he's not going to pitch me." So I did my normal thing with Donnie and dropped a bunch of informations. And he literally messaged me in like 3 minutes and said, "Hey, I just saw your post. That's awesome, but it was way too long for me to read. Can we jump on a Zoom call?" Yes, we sure can.
Now he's asking to be sold to.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. He asked to jump on a Zoom call, so I now have permission to give him, out more answers and to sell him. And I never had to come across as a slimy salesperson. And when I jumped on the phone call with him, my first words out of my mouth was like, "All right, so just so you know, I am not a MailChimp person. We will put clients on that if they do like newsletters and newsletters only. But I'll totally help you. So let's figure out what's going on." And I helped him, and he was awesome, got him up and rolling. He was really like, "This is exciting. This is great. Thank you so much." And we went on our merry way, because he wasn't my target client. It was a cool conversation. Donnie was a nice guy, but I didn't want to actually work with him. And he was still in the do-it-yourself stage of being an entrepreneur.
Life.
Yep, I can learn how to do this. Well, like 3 months later, he broke it again and messaged me out of the blue. It's like, "I broke my email again. I need to have you come on my team." So I'm like, "All right, well, let's talk about this, because you're still not my target client. So let's figure out how this could work, and if I want to do this." And that's how we started working together. So I came on literally as someone who is going to help him not break his email.
Caveman away from delicate things.
Yeah,
Caveman, stay there. I take care of delicate.
Get the troglodyte away from the computer. So, but then, it was interesting because we had this really complementary personalities and outlooks on stuff. He was very much a visionary, wanted to do things. And he'd come up with ideas like, "Oh, I really want to do this course, or I want to do this program. I want to do this thing." And I'm like, "Oh, we can totally automate that. We can actually do this and this and that." And then I got to geek out on what I was really into. And then I would start coming back with ideas like, "Hey, what if we did this?" And so we really just started this business relationship of ideation, where we kept coming back and forth and seeing what was going to work best for his company. It's kind of like, "Ooh, let's try this and see if it sticks." And we were doing that, and we had automated a bunch of stuff with his online group, Success Champions, which is kind of a public group, which was feeding his coaching and mastermind stuff. And then COVID hit. And we were literally, Donnie was literally sitting with the hotel that was going to be hosting the Badass Business Summit. Our first one was supposed to be April of 2020. He's sitting in the office going over the final plans and making sure we hadn't missed some big thing like food or chairs or something like that for the event. And they got the call from the city of Hearst saying, "Hey, due to COVID, we are shutting down all in-person events. And if you have people show up for an in-person event, the police will arrive and they will arrest them." And we think this will last 2 weeks, but it may last longer.
Oh, I remember COVID. Very unfun time, and a lot of people just lost a lot of business.
Yeah, totally. So we were literally a month out from this event where we had 17 speakers coming into Dallas-Fort Worth. We had 150 tickets sold for people who were flying in from all over the country to go to this new version of a business conference. And we had to just put everything on hold. So the immediate thing that crossed our mind was like, "Oh crap." while he was there, Donnie asked the hotel, it's like, how are you all going to survive? What are you going to do? And their answer is like, we're not sure. We don't know. We have to talk about this. And we had that exact same conversation, but except not about us, because we'd already been doing online stuff. Donnie had been promoting his stuff through Facebook. We'd been doing virtual meetings and events already. So we knew we could keep selling and keep growing Success Champions. But our conversation was like, what are all these other small businesses going to do that haven't been working on a digital presence? They don't know how to sell and operate an online business. Like, we need to do something. And one morning at like 3:30 in the morning, it was some god awful time. Donnie messages me on Facebook, says, I have the answer. We need to start virtual networking groups. Well, and like normal people, I was sleeping, so I did not answer him. So when I got up there was a second message from him about 6. When I got up, there's another message from him saying, hey, you didn't answer. Does that mean it's a bad idea? I'm like, no, it meant I was sleeping.
I'm a normal person. I sleep when the sun is down, man.
I know. I'm like, no, it's a great idea, but I was asleep. I have not even had coffee yet. I'm not ready for you. And the funny thing is, neither me or Donnie wanted to get back into the networking world, because I had done like 18 years as a member and a director with another organization. He had launched a bunch of groups when he was in corporate sales down in DFW. But it was the right thing to do. And a week later, we launched the first SCN group in Fort Worth. And then we've just grown from there across the country. We now have a group active in Canada. We have another one getting ready to launch in the Philippines. And it's all premised around this concept that if you're going to be in a room with a bunch of business people, you actually need to be doing things that help you grow your business, not just listening to other people talk about theirs. Mm-hmm. So it's all focused for us, like, how do you use the internet to grow? And then what are the skills you need to learn as an entrepreneur to scale your business? So it's not just us talking about networking. It's us talking about business development and how to do reach outs. It's us talking about how to get on stage and do workshops and hand raising activities. It's, business finance. What do you need to understand as an entrepreneur about business finance? What do you need to understand about operations? How do you hire a VA? Because that was something we had just went through and experienced and learned a ton from. How do you bring on your first employees? So that's the stuff that we teach in SCN. And that's the stuff that we also teach at the Badass Business Summit. And the goal is that people are actually taking it and then can start applying it and accelerate their scaling and grow faster and scale their business faster.
I love it. Oh, when is the next Success Summit?
So the next Badass Business Summit is in September. And the exact dates are, I should have had this open earlier, so I wasn't scrolling through and looking. The next dates are September 22nd through the 24th of September.
And obviously, you probably have some names lined up. Is there anybody you can hint at who's going to be there so that we can drum up some interest?
Donnie and I obviously are going to be there. We usually each speak each day, either together or we do our own thing. We're going to do a live episode of Growth Mode at the event, which is always a freaking blast because everyone gets to ask questions and interact with us, and we have no idea what's going to happen on the show. We are going to have Zach Knight is going to be coming in from Atlanta. He does operational consulting for enterprise level companies. So he's going to really talk about how you manage and design your operational processes so that you can actually scale your business. Taylor Merritt is going to be coming in as well from Atlanta, and she does fitness programs for Fortune 100 companies. So she's going to be talking about fitness as an entrepreneur and how to make sure you do that. She's even going to be doing some morning exercise workouts for everyone, so you can get up, go work out, and then start the day. We have them coming in, and then we're going to have some other cool activities. Friday night is always karaoke night. That was our second summit. Yeah, it was our second summit. We're all sitting at the bar one evening, and one individual who's now our MC for the event, Pablo, said, "Hey, is it all right if a bunch of us go to a bar and sing karaoke?" And down here, like, yeah, totally. Go have fun. You don't have to stay at the hotel to have time. Go hang out and enjoy yourself while you're in Fort Worth. And our sound guy is like, "Well, my sound system's in the room, and I have karaoke. We can just do it here." So we ended up with a karaoke night, and it was this huge event, and everyone had a blast. So now everyone's like, "Are we doing karaoke again?" I'm like, "Yes."
It's permanently there.
Yeah, it is now a permanent fixture on the event. Is Friday nights. We have this big social event, and we do SCN karaoke. So we do stuff like that, and then it's all, our workshops, instead of the traditional conference experience where you go there and you take copious notes and you fill up notebooks with writing, and then you go home with all these best intentions and really cool ideas about, oh, I'm going to go do this. And then you get home and he's like, and you don't do any of it because all of real life happens again. Ours are all set up as workshops and tactical activities. So if you're in with a speaker, you're actually going to be planning things. You're going to be working on stuff. When you leave their workshop, you're already going to have a 60 to 70% solution that they just need to finish and implement. You don't have to do a ton of thinking and heavy lifting when you get back. We have different sessions throughout the 3 days we're there of masterminds where we're going to put you in groups and you can actually work on stuff and you can get interaction between each other and fixing issues or figuring out how to take advantage of opportunities that you have. So again, you're leaving with things ready to implement. So when you leave the summit, you should be ready to go do things and actually take action and not have just really cool ideas, the good idea fairy. Oh, we need to do this, but then never do it because you literally don't have time to do the planning. We're going to do all the planning with you at the event. So, that has been our big draw. Everyone leaves there. It's like, I actually accomplished things. I actually got to do things for my business while I was here. And it's no longer just an info dump. It's now an actual working session.
Oh, I like that. I like change. You guys change the networking game. You're changing how conferences are being done because a lot of them is like, it's a rah, and then you leave and you're like, oh, I'm so excited, but you don't have the actual steps to start moving towards reaching those goals that you thought of and written down. So I love that you guys are doing this actionable vehicle, this actual summit. I do want to touch before we finish up, because you're just dropped so much gold. I would love to know, what is something someone can start doing to automate their sales process?
So really the first step, if you want to automate your sales process, is understanding how you actually sell. And usually when I go into clients and when we want to talk about integrating email or some sort of workflow management into sales, they don't really have a documented process. They don't actually know how they sell to their clients. So that's really the first step, is really understand, all right, so how do we sell? And then we'll normally help them figure out, all right, so how do your clients actually make decisions? And are your processes running at the same speed, and are they in parallel? Or are you like trying to drag your client along kicking and screaming and make them make decisions faster? So we look at that, but then it's really the first step in an automation for a sales process is figuring out, all right, so what are my redundant tasks? What are the things that I have to do every client that I get in my pipeline, no matter what? Now, how do I get those out of my to-do list? So a good example is when I was doing corporate sales, Friday morning was always my thank you email morning, where I would send all my prospects that I had met with for the first time that week the thank you email of, hey, it was really great meeting with you this week, Phil, and I loved learning about your company. I'm really excited about the opportunity to work with you, blah, blah, blah. That little generic ditty that salespeople send out. So I would send it out, and I would so not being paying attention to what I was doing, because I'd be trying to do other things at the same time, that I would be cutting and pasting from my Word document into my Outlook. And I would forget to change the name, or I'd forget to change the company name. So like I'd be sending an email to Sally, but I'd be calling Sally Phil, or, I'd be sending it to Phil and be like, hey, Sally, or I'd have the company name wrong, and I'd hit send, and then I'd be like, oh my God, what did I just do? So, and that's common. Most salespeople, when I tell that story, like, "Oh yeah, I've done that."
I was shaking my head because I did that too.
Yeah, but that is a thing that you can automate, and you can figure out. All right, so at this point of the sales process, we're going to automate the thank you email, and then we're going to add content. We're going to make that email valuable, and actually add a piece of content in it that helps the prospect with their decision that they got to make at that point of the sales process. So, for example, one of the things we did with a roofing company was after they did their first meeting, so the owner would go out to the prospect, they'd look at the roof, look at, colors for shingles or siding or whatever it was. When he'd marked that meeting complete, our system would send off an email to that prospect that we like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, it was really awesome meeting with you today and getting to see your property. I'm really excited to be working with you. I'm going to work on some pricing and I'm going to be sending it over to you in the next few days. But while you're waiting for that, I wanted to give you this checklist, because one of the biggest fears that we hear from our prospects is that they're going to get scammed. And we know that is an issue in the roofing industry. So here is a checklist of all the things that you need to have answers to and understand about your contractor before you give them a deposit.
That's $100 minimum piece of advice there.
Exactly. So that was the piece of content, because that's what's going through their heads at that point of the sales process. It's like, God, I hope we're not getting scammed. I hope these aren't some stormers from, wherever that came up here and are just trying to make a quick buck and they're going to disappear after they do my roof. And then it's going to be issues. So that was really important. So at each point of your sales process, there's going to be certain types of content that are going to fill a need for your prospect. And it's understanding, all right, so when am I sending this email? What content can I attach to it that's going to add value to my relationship with the prospect? And at the beginning point, that thank you email, it's something that's going to reinforce that they're making the right choice and that they're going to be all right and they're not going to get scammed, for the roofer. So.
No, it's a great piece of advice, and I like the advice you gave, giving that little bit of extra. Like, hey, you may not work with me, but I still want you to get the best service. So take this piece of advice and just run with it. I think a lot of businesses don't think about that, like, because they're going to remember that later on. They're like, hey, we had this bad experience, but I remember this roofer gave me this checklist. They were willing to give me that checklist for free. Let's go check out them again. They were maybe a bit more expensive, but they gave us something for free that helped us save us time and energy. So I think that's so valuable.
Yeah, totally. And a lot of people, if they know they're getting good value, they're going to be willing to spend a little bit extra because they know they're going to get what they paid for. If you have just a bunch of roofers coming in, you don't know Adam from Eve, it's now going to become a price thing. It's like, Phil was, $1,500 less on the roof, so we're just going to go with him. Whereas, Kevin, we really like Kevin, and he actually gave us all the stuff that actually helped us make sure and actually disqualify Bill, who was kind of a little sketchy and didn't actually have a license in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. So, we thought Bill was awesome until we went through Kevin's checklist. Let's work with Kevin, because we know he's not going to screw us over. So, and that's the idea. If you're building the value and you're the one that's helping them make decisions, and you're early enough in the process so you can actually help them generate what their criteria are, you're going to be in the lead. It's going to be much harder for them to disqualify you and get you out of their sales process or their buying process than it would be for someone else who's just trying to drag them into saying yes as quickly as possible.
Great. Yeah, it's true. Kevin, we are coming to near the end of the show, so we're going to jump into the spark question. I'm always interested. This is something new we've done on the show since you were last on, but it's sparked by Seek Discomfort. They believe that strangers are just friends you haven't met yet, so let's spark a conversation. What is one goal you have this year?
So my big goal, I have two goals every year that I focus on. One is my podcast appearances. I want to do 2 podcast appearances every week. And then I want to have no less than 1 on stage in person appearance a quarter. So I want to be on a stage somewhere every quarter. So those are my 2 of my big ones. And then for SCN, we want to break the 1,000 member mark.
Oh, I for sure, with the value that you guys are giving and the people listening, I highly suggest you go check it out. I've been following Donnie for about since I started this podcast, at least. So since 2020 for sure. And the value you guys give in those groups. Oh, beautiful. Kevin, I'm going to. Oh, the praise is well worth it. If it wasn't for Donnie, I don't think I would be where I am today from the advice he gave on that episode. So I will always sing the praises of the Badass Success Summit and that. But Kevin, I'm going to jump off the stage here. I want you to let the audience know where they can follow you, where they can join the network, if they the Badass Network Summit group and the Success Summit and all the stuff. There's so much you guys have. So the floor, sir, is yours.
Cool. So the easiest way to follow me is just go to LinkedIn and search for Kevin Snow. I'll be standing there in my picture. I'm in front of a Badass Business Summit backdrop, so I'm easy to find. Follow me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you heard me on the Invest in Yourself podcast, and I will be sure to accept your request. And then you're going to get all the updates on new episodes, stuff going on with the Champion Summit that we just held in Cincinnati, the one we have coming up, the Badass Business Summit that's going to be in September in Fort Worth, and all the groups that we're launching across the country. So that is the best way to connect and get into my world.
Awesome. Kevin, I want to thank you so much again for being on the show, sharing your tips, your story, and some great laughs with us. So thank you again for being here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on the show again, Phil. This was awesome.
To my audience, as you know, show notes will have everything to connect to Kevin and the Badass network of people he has. Again, I cannot tell you enough that you should be following these guys, because Donnie and Kevin are giving more value than asking for in return. So do yourself a favor, connect with them. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.